Yeah, times are dark. But at least we have Percy Jackson. Hello, people of the internet. If this video ever sees a live day on YouTube, which I don't know if it ever will, I'm mostly just making this for my friends and to kind of mess around with video editing if this is on YouTube. Hello and welcome. I'm going to attempt to make a decent Rick Riordan content video with no fancy camera, no external microphone, and just my desk lamp. So let's get into this. Why talk about the Tower of Nero? Well, it is the last book in the Trials of Apollo series, which is the last series set in Percy Jackson's world. Rick has mentioned that he might do separate side books for this universe after he's done with the Tower of Nero. He said that more than likely they will just be standalone books about different characters, and people have actually asked him already about considering doing one for Will or one for Nico, and he said that it's not a bad idea. But that's not a guarantee that we'll actually get that, so wouldn't hold my breath just yet, but it is still a possibility. The era's gonna come to an end at some point, but it's okay, because a new era is starting with the Percy Jackson TV show on Disney+, which probably won't be out for another 3 years, but it's fine, I can wait. Rick has stated in tweets and interviews that this book is supposed to wrap up really nicely and tie up all the loose ends for this universe. He's hoping he gave us the satisfying ending that we're all craving. His wife Becky actually tweeted that after she read the Tower of Nero, after he'd written it, she had to just sit there and hug him because it was a lot to take in. I'm hoping that this really means something. I'm not ready for this to end. Oh, it's gonna be so hard. I'm not expecting anything sad to happen in this book. I haven't read the first 2 chapters of the book that he released because I'm waiting for the book to come out. So I know they're on a train traveling, and there's some like prophecy, which like it's standard, it's expected, so not too much of a spoiler, honestly. Speaking of spoilers, if you have not read The Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan, I do not recommend going any further in this video because there are going to be major spoilers. A lot of the stuff on this list is just kind of like nitpicky or things that he's hinted at previously that I'm hoping finally gets resolved. I am going to be talking about all 4 books that have already been released, so you've been warned. I will not be mentioning any obvious expectations for this book, and that includes Apollo's battle with Python. We all know that's going to happen. Rick even said that what we have on the cover might not even be the final battle. It's just an interpretation of what it could be. So, won't be mentioning that. Also won't be mentioning the fact that Meg will be confronting her stepdad, Nero, right? I hope I've been saying that correctly. If not, and it's Nero, I haven't been saying Nero because I watch Black Clover and I don't want people to think that I've just been getting it from anime. So I've been saying Nero, I've been trying to like separate my fandoms. I apologize in advance for pronouncing any Greek names wrong. I will be talking about both gods and monsters, so if I butcher those names, I'm so sorry. But I can tell you, I will 100% get Rick Riordan's name correctly, because this video exists on the internet.
Alright, let's see what this is. Alright, my dad doesn't believe you pronounce your name as you do. Can I record you saying your name for him? Hi, Dad. Are you ready? Yeah, we're recording this on the website anyway. Riordan. Riordan. Sort of rhymes with fireman. Sorta. I know a lot of people with that name say Riordan. My branch of the family says Riordan. I have no idea why.
Yeah. All of y'all out there that haven't been saying Rick's last name correctly, it's that video has been up for years. I'm just saying. Also, I will be using fan art in this video. I'm putting this disclaimer saying that I did not create any of that artwork. I'm not trying to sell it or claim it as my own. I am going to give full credit to all of the artists unless I, for whatever reason, could not find them at all. Most of this art will be official art anyway, but just in case, here's me saying that none of this is mine. Anyway, enough of that. On to the actual list. Here are 7 wants/expectations I'm hoping for in the Tower of Nero. Number 1, Annabeth Chase. We haven't physically seen Annabeth in this series at all so far. From the beginning of the announcement of the Trials of Apollo series, Rick stated that we were going to see all of our favorite characters back in action, and every single one of the 7 great demigods of prophecy has been present in these books, except for one, Annabeth Chase. She has been mentioned by several characters in this series, but hasn't made a physical appearance. Now, there's actually a really good explanation as to why she hasn't physically been seen so far. At the beginning of The Hidden Oracle, Percy states that she's off visiting her cousin Magnus. If you haven't read Magnus Chase, highly recommend. It's my second favorite Rick Riordan series. It's amazing. It's very important to note that the Magnus Chase books and the Trials of Apollo books actually take place along the same timeline, at least for the first 2 books. For the rest of the series, I don't know if they exactly line up chronologically, because the Burning Maze happens right after the Dark Prophecy, and Ship of the Dead takes place a while after the Hammer of Thor, so the timelines get a little wonky from there on out, but overall they follow the same months and times and dates. This is very important later on, so just bear with me. Annabeth is gone in The Hidden Oracle. She's not present at Camp Half-Blood. She's in Boston. In the first Magnus Chase book, The Sword of Summer, Annabeth makes several appearances at the beginning, at the end, and even in the middle of the book. She's very much doing just fine. It's not like she's in danger or anything. She's just visiting her cousin, or at least trying to reconnect with him, which is details in the Magnus Chase series that I won't get into. But that happens simultaneously with The Hidden Oracle. And then we fast forward 6 weeks to the Dark Prophecy. Now, Lester Papadopoulos has been traveling around with Leo and Calypso at this point, but 6 weeks have also gone by in the Magnus Chase series between the first and second book. This is very important to note because at the end of the second Magnus Chase book, The Hammer of Thor, Annabeth makes another appearance, and she actually suggests meeting Percy, which again indicates that she is fine, Percy is fine, they're all doing fine. Annabeth just hasn't physically been in the Trials of Apollo yet. And then we get to the Ship of the Dead, the third Magnus Chase book, where Annabeth makes yet another appearance. She's physically at the beginning of the book, but is only heard talking through the phone at the end, in which she is crying, saying that she found out some bad news about something, which I won't mention until later on in this video. It still hurts right here. Anyway, now that the Magnus Chase conflict has resolved, Annabeth really should be making her appearance in this book. Now, I know this is pretty obvious that it's going to happen because Rick has strongly hinted several times that our favorite characters were going to be back, and this, of course, includes Annabeth. But still, I'm waiting for it. I literally have Viria merch behind me, like, of Annabeth. I love her. Also, the fact that she's crying at the end of the Magnus Chase series that something sad has happened has shown that she's been in contact with everything that's been going on at this point in the Trials of Apollo. She even mentions to Magnus that a god had turned mortal and fallen to Earth and that they were trying to help him. So she is 100% aware of everything that's going on. She just hasn't physically shown up yet. So, Annabeth, wise girl, I can't wait to see you. Moving on into my next segment, almost flawlessly, number 2, this is kind of a long shot, Magnus Chase. I am hoping that we can actually see Magnus in this book because, like I mentioned earlier, Rick stated that this book is going to wrap up everything very nicely for this universe and not really leave any loose ends. So I'm hoping that that means a Magnus Chase mention at least, or if not, maybe an appearance? Okay, hear me out. Here's why I actually think there's a strong chance that we could actually see Magnus in this book. At the end of The Ship of the Dead, when he's on that phone call with Annabeth, he actually wonders if he can go and visit her, maybe even make it to the West Coast. Why would Rick put that in if he didn't think about exploring that? So, Magnus has at least thought about going to visit Annabeth in her realm instead of her always coming to him. My second indicator, and this is probably the most important one, is that in the Magnus Chase side book, 9 from the 9 Worlds, those stories are told from everyone else's point of view in the Magnus Chase world except for Magnus. And that is because he is off visiting his cousin Annabeth. I mean, it is canonically stated that Magnus is visiting Annabeth. So, you know, if he's visiting Annabeth, why can't it be at the end of the Trials of Apollo series? This, again, might just be a long shot, but I think there's a pretty good chance because the stars are kind of aligning, and when it comes to Rick Riordan, he puts in a lot of detail for things that you might not even think are important. Like the whole Ella mentioning the Apollo prophecy in the Blood of Olympus. Yeah. I don't think so. Alright, moving on to number 3. Not as important, but still lovable to us. Estelle, Percy Jackson's little sister. Now, we all probably figured this was coming. Not as obvious as the Annabeth one, but Rick has strongly hinted at this. He said before that we are going to see Percy's sister by the time the series is over, and here we are in the last book. Just waiting. Now, Apollo hasn't even been close to where Percy is since the first book, which was like 4 years ago our time. So it makes sense that we haven't seen her yet. But, you know, we're still expecting it. We know that she has been born by this point because in that fateful Magnus Chase book, The Ship of the Dead, Percy is actually talking about her. So she's been mentioned already. We know her name, but we haven't actually seen her in this series like Annabeth. I mean, come on. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that one. Okay. Number 4, Tumisian? Am I saying that correctly? Tumisian? The Tumisian fox. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. I actually recently took a mythology course and I don't remember my professor talking about that, so that's fun. This is the animal that the Hunters of Artemis are currently tracking, and based on its mythology, it's a fox that can never be captured. So why am I bringing this up? It's because Rick keeps bringing it up. From the first time we see the Hunters of Artemis in this series, they state that they're hunting this fox, and it's like, okay, cool beans. And then they show up in The Tyrant's Tomb, this newest book, and they're still hunting it. So I think that the fact that he's brought it up at least twice, I don't remember if they had started looking for it in the Blood of Olympus, but I do know that this has already been mentioned in this series several times. So I think the fact that Rick keeps mentioning it is maybe an indicator that we'll see it in this book. I don't know if they'll address the fact that it could never be captured, or address the fact that in the myth, how it was captured was that people sent a dog after it that would never give up on its prey. So it kind of led to this running away and being chased and running away and being chased, and it was just a cycle, and eventually they became constellations. Yeah, I don't know if Rick's actually going to address this, but it would be really cool if he did. Okay, moving back into the people category for number 5. Calypso. Shout out to my favorite Rick Riordan couple, Cleo. I love Leo and Calypso's story so much. I love the whole, like, he landed on her island, and then they hated each other, and that's how it's not supposed to be, but then eventually she realized that she did love him, then he was able to leave, and then actually died for her. We love to see it. I want to give a quick roast to Reed Riordan for getting Cleo's ship name wrong. Like, how do you do that? How do you manage a website for this fandom and this author and not even know what the proper ship name is for a couple? Like, oh my god. Yeah, at least they got Solangelo right. More into that later. The last time we saw Calypso, her plot really hadn't been resolved. She had just gotten her magic back, and she was training to get it to full capacity again. I think it'd be really great if we saw her and Leo come in, like, storming into a battle with his fire and her magic. It would show how she's improved since the last time we saw her. Because I think that if that's not tied up, it'll be kind of a mystery of like, well, did Calypso ever fully regain her powers? Or was that just kind of a left up to your interpretation thing? Which, considering this is Rick, I really don't think that he would just drop that as an entire conversation and then never touch on it again, especially when it's left unresolved. Also, again, the fact that Rick said we should be really satisfied with how this book ties up all the loose ends. So if I don't see Calypso using magic in this book, I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it, honestly. Okay. Moving on. Number 6, cell phone usage. That's right. I want them to be able to use cell phones by the end of this book. Because why can't they? No, seriously, why can't they? Because Sadie Kane from the Kane Chronicles can use a cell phone just fine. She has an Instagram account. And Alex Fierro and Magnus Chase used a cell phone without any issues. Meanwhile, Annabeth is with this old flip phone trying to make sure that monsters don't attack them from the signal. It was mentioned in the crossovers between the Kane Chronicles and Percy Jackson that Annabeth was really puzzled by the fact that Sadie could openly use a cell phone and not have to worry about anything, whereas she couldn't. I think the fact that Rick has bothered to write lines like that has kind of indicated that maybe they can use cell phones. It's just there's been a problem for a long time with it. Here's why I think that now that problem is resolved. In this last book, The Tyrant's Tomb, Apollo freed the god Harpocrates, who was the silent god for the Greek and Egyptian era. He had been blocking communication between the demigods for this whole series, really since the Heroes of Olympus. No iris messages, no electronics, no anything, nothing was working. But now he's gone. And it doesn't state how long the emperors had him chained up there. It could have just been a recent thing because of the war with the giants, which then caused Apollo to become mortal, and then all this stuff is happening, which is why we have this series. But I think there's still a chance that maybe he had been there for years and no one knew about it, because these emperors have been around for years. It's stated several times in the books that over time these emperors have been getting power by feeding off of their myths. So if they've been around this whole time, who's to say how long Harpocrates has been chained up? I hope I'm saying his name correctly. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Again, I'm trying my best. So yeah, why is it that the Egyptian people can use cell phones, that the Norse mythology people can use cell phones, but not the Greeks and the Romans? This has always bugged me. I think it would be a nice reward after everything that they've gone through. Give my people some cell phones. Let them troll the internet like Rick does. I'm just saying. It'd be great. Number 7, Solangelo kiss. Okay. Hear me out. We already know that Will and Nico are going to play large supporting roles in this last book. Rick has said that in interviews. It's already on the wiki. They're 100% guaranteed to make an appearance in this last book. Now, to what extent will that show their relationship? There's enough with them helping Apollo, but how much of them are we actually going to get, you know? Is it just going to be kind of like in this last book, how we didn't really see so much of Frazel? We just saw a lot of Hazel going with Apollo at one point and helping him, and then Frank going with Apollo at one point and helping him, but not really like them together. I'm hoping that's not what it's like again, because oh my god, this fandom is craving some Solangelo content, let me tell you. Also, Solangelo is the only main canon couple that has not had a kiss yet in any of Rick Riordan's books. Sadie Kane has 2 boyfriends and has kissed both of them. Like, why can't Will and Nico have a kiss? That's all I'm asking for Solangelo. You have Magnus Chase, you've got the big main ones from the 7, but not Solangelo. Nico deserves some love. We know that he's very happy with Will, but come on. I just want a kiss. I'm hoping that if we do get a kiss, that it's kind of one of those like about to head into battle and I promise I'll come back, so then he kisses him and then like leaves to fight. But any type of Solangelo kiss, I'm fine to settle with. Would it be nice if it was one of those? Yes. Yes, it would. But I'm fine if it's not. Well, that is the end of my 7 wants / expectations for this book, but I do want to give one final want. Now, I've been avoiding probably the biggest spoiler for this series, mainly in case other people that are actually watching this just to watch it and actually haven't seen the series. This is a very big spoiler. So for this bonus one, if you haven't read The Burning Maze or anything past that, please skip to this time mark and hear out for some final thoughts. So for this last bonus one, I really don't know if we're going to see it. I think it'd be nice for closure, but I really have a hard time picturing it actually happening. If not, like, it's fine. I'm really hoping that Apollo goes to the underworld and visits Jason in Elysium. Now, it's still so hard to talk about it. They better get the music right at his funeral in the TV show. Oh my god. I want Heroes of Olympus theme, slow like piano or epic orchestral as they're marching his coffin. Oh my god. I need that. I need that so bad. Maybe I'll make another video where I have hopes for things. But we all know that Apollo has broken his oath on the River Styx. He's going to have to confront the goddess of the River Styx at some point in this book, probably towards the end after he becomes a god again, which are some people speculating that that won't happen? Like, is that just a one-time thing I heard, or is that an actual, like, thing? Because, y'all, calm down. Of course he's going to become a god again. What do you think this is? Don't forget that this series is still considered middle grade. There's not going to be anything too drastic that happens. Besides, you know, Jason Grace's death. Like, okay, I get that some people didn't like Jason, but if you weren't sad, even just a little bit, that he died after we spent 5 books with him in the Heroes of Olympus, like, I don't know what to say to you, because he was brutally murdered by an emperor. That's, I cried so hard. I just don't understand people that hate Jason. Anyway, if Apollo does have to go to the underworld to confront the goddess of the River Styx, maybe when he's done with that whole thing, he can stop by Elysium and see Jason one last time. I really would like to see this because it would bring closure for the whole fandom, really. He had such an abrupt ending. I would just really like to see Apollo go to him and call him brother and let him know that his friends are okay and that they won. I'm hoping that if this does happen, Jason can say something like, it's okay, someday I'll see them again. Maybe we'll even get mentions of other people that have died and are now in Elysium, and we can see that they're living there peacefully. If we're going to get the closure that Rick says that we will, I don't know. Maybe I'm going out of my way for this, but I would really like to see that. I think it would be a really beautiful scene, and I think it'd be really good for closure. Alright everyone, that is it! Basically, for this list, I just want a bunch of things that haven't been addressed already, or characters that we haven't seen yet that we really want to see make appearances. Like, I would just want everything tied together really nicely. Rick Riordan is my favorite author, and since this is the end of a really big era in my life, my fingers are crossed that we get everything that we want and more. Not saying that I'm expecting an epilogue, because Rick doesn't do epilogues except that one time in the Annabeth Chase series, but that was for plot, not for an actual, like, real 20 years later epilogue. I just want closure on things we don't have closure about. That's all a girl can ask for. If I did end up posting this on YouTube, I hope I didn't make a fool of myself. I mostly, again, just made this for some Rick Riordan content because the world needs some fandom content right now. So I'm here. I'm not going to end this video by saying subscribe, because I really don't care about that. I just care about talking about these books because they're my everything. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and be kind to each other.